Hey everybody, welcome to Just Blazor Programming, and today we're going to be discussing authorization and authentication in Blazor. Now, this is just going to be the most simplest example that I have ever found on making authentication and authorization work in Blazor. However, there's many more ways to do this, and this is just the simplest way. So in other videos, I'll go into the more traditional ways of doing it, the better ways of doing it. This is just how to just get started implementing it in Blazor, specifically in Blazor Server. Blazor WASM has its own way of doing this particular thing because there's more libraries you have to import and more services you have to apply to, and it's a different process entirely from what I'm going to show you today. However, if you just need a very quick startup because you have some sort of project that you want to get started, but you need some authentication pieces in order to do a proof of concept, this will be perfect for you. So right now I'm going to tell you, I'm going to go switch over to my screen and show you exactly what you need to download first in order to make this happen. And then I'll teach you, all the steps you got to do. So this is the most basic Blazor authentication and authorization tutorial that I could ever find and show you. Just letting you know. So we're going to get started on the authentication and authorization piece for Blazor. This is going to be a Blazor server project. So this is the absolute simplest way of getting any authentication or authorization in a Blazor project. If you want to do Blazor WASM, that is a little bit more difficult, a little bit more complicated than doing this, because this is basically just out of the box stuff. The only thing that you will need is, if you can see back here, apart from whatever your IDE is going to be, is Microsoft SQL Management Studio. So you can download this for free on Microsoft, and then once you do that, it'll ask you to connect to a server. So it's going to create one for you basically. And then you want to make sure you copy paste this information here. Or just copy paste it, put it somewhere. I'm putting it on my notepad right there. And you connect. Once you do that, you will be able to create databases. So you see I have like 2 databases here. But what I'm going to do is just make another one. So I'm going to make another one right here. New database. So just open the open this. Go to where it says databases and just create a new one. And here we're just going to call it Blazor Auth. And now you also need to know what this name is as well, but you'll see what I mean once we create the project. So this is actually the simplest way that I found to create any sort of Blazor authentication or authorization. We're going to create a new project, a new Blazor server app, and we're going to call it Blazor Auth Server. We know that that's our Blazor server Auth project for server. And here, the differences between this and the other project types that I've done before is that we're going to choose an authentication type, where before we just have none and we kind of ignored this. Here, we actually are going to choose an authentication type. So I'll just go over this real quick. Individual accounts is what we're going to be using today. Individual accounts is basically you're going to be taking accounts from somewhere. In this case, we're going to be taking accounts from a database, Blazor Auth in our case. Microsoft Identity Platform is what helps you use tokens, is what helps you use for like Azure or like Google authentication, things like that. So if you have like a Google account, you could use this to log in with it, but you need to build it with this in mind. And Windows is when you need to use Active Directory on your computer, or I believe Windows Accounts also works with this as well. It has its own thing. So the simplest one is individual accounts, and that's what we're gonna work with. This is the old-fashioned way. Maybe not as old as Active Directory, but this is how web apps usually will do it. If you're supporting like a project or something and you have a database, usually your database is gonna have all the users in there. Also in the database, you're gonna see that we have no tables right now. But don't worry, you don't have to build any tables, and there's very minimal SQL that you're gonna have there. You're gonna have to do. So the Blazor project is gonna do a lot of the work for you. So now the Blazor project has activated, and now we are almost good to go. So the first thing you want to do is go to the AppSettings.json file, and we're going to switch out this information, the server information and the database information. So in our case, we're going to get rid of this database that it gives us up to the equals, and you're going to put in the name of the database you've chosen. So in our case, mine is called Blazor Auth, whatever you chose to call it. you want to put it there. And this server is whatever the name you used up here. So whatever this is, you just replace that with that. And see. So you have your server, the name of the server, and the name of the database in your default connection. Just save that. And you're basically good to go. And before we run this, I'm just gonna go over real quick what is different between this and like the other Blazor projects that do not have this. Is that it basically has already implemented a way of you creating these individual accounts and attaching them to the database, and it will even build the tables for you. So all you have to do is draw from those tables. It also has components that the other ones did not have. So you're gonna see what I mean. Now, when I say this is the easiest way, I mean like if you don't know anything about like role provider, like role policies, claims and stuff like that, then this is fine. And if you have like a small project that you just, you don't really care about having all that stuff, then this will also work for you. But when it comes to like real life scenarios, this is not enough in my opinion. But this will at least get you, get you where you want to go very quickly, at least for a proof of concept. So when this finally runs, we want to go to login. This is one of the pre-made components that comes with this. So it comes with the register, login, and I think an about me component or something that you didn't make, and it is in here for you. So I'm going to add an email. There's also pre-made validation. So if I don't add like a proper email, it's just going to be mad. And also this password has validation as well. So what I put for this password is just password123 an exclamation point. If not, if I miss one of those things, it's not gonna work. So if I try to log in with this, it'll give me an error. And that's what we want. We want this error to come out because what this will do is it basically says that they can't like find the database, it can't find anything to grab the users from. So if you press this button, it's gonna do everything in your database and do all the work for you. Which is what we want. But in order for it to find the database, you have to fill out that information from the from before in the AppSettings.json file. So now it's done. It actually did it. So we just want to refresh the file. And if you don't believe me, we're going to refresh the Blazor auth here. And it created all these tables for us. So right now, we basically have the authentication piece ready. And I'm going to create test at test.com. And this password is going to be password123 exclamation point. I'm going to say invalid login attempt. So we have to register as a new user. So we're going to do the same thing. Add that very password twice. You need a capital case. You need letters, you need numbers, and you need a non-alphanumeric character. In this case, I'm using the exclamation point. We have a registration. We don't need to do any of this. We go back to the login page. So if I come here and go to where it says users, like top 1000 rows, you see that my user is there. The one that I just created, test at test.com, and it has a password. Unfortunately, this password is handled using the like the password library thing that it has like with the encryption. So you can't like stick somebody in here without the encryption, or else it's not gonna work. So if you're gonna add people in there, you have to go through this process. Kind of sucks if you want to do like more testing and make it easier on yourself, but them's the breaks. So we're gonna add this. We're gonna log in properly now. Now that I exist. Actually, no. Excuse me, my bad. I almost forgot. If you look closely to what we have here, our user is actually locked out and the email has not been confirmed. I don't think this actually does anything, or I don't think that we have implemented anything that allows us that needs us to change this. But out of habit, in my testing, I just flipped the switches. Let's see what happens. Okay, so yeah, you need to do a little bit of SQL here. Luckily, I've already been through this process, so I got the query prepared. So what you're gonna need to do on your end is either go to the edit if you don't want to do it this way. I don't even know if you can even see this. I'm just gonna make it bigger for you. So what I'm doing here is an update statement, where we just update whatever this first user is. The ID seems to be a GUID, so I paste that ID here. Make sure your lockout is on 0 and email confirm is on 1, and update it like this. 1 row affected. I am going to just comment that out now. Execute this, and now we have our email confirmed to be 1 and our lockout enabled 0. And I believe that is all we need to do to make this work. And there it is. It actually logged in. You see my name is up here, test@test.com. And yeah, unfortunately, you don't have to do the query way, the SQL way of doing this. You could just come in here and edit it manually. Forget how, because I rarely use the editing, but yeah, you could edit this, edit any of these manually here. Yeah, edit top 200 rows, and then it'll give you the ability to change this to a 1 and change this to a 0 if you want to, instead of doing this way. But this is the proper way of doing it, in my opinion. So what does that give me? It gives me access to the Blazor server, but if I log out now, I still have access to it. So how do I know whether or not, I have the authentication or the authorization working? It makes no difference. Well, you have to be the one to implement the authentication and authorization pieces. So even though you already exist, technically when you log in and you exist in the system, that's the authentication piece. The authorization piece comes in when you want to separate privileges that you might have. So we're going to just show you real quick how to do that with this. Unfortunately, doing it this way, it's not the best way, because we won't have claims, we won't have roles, and we won't have claims, roles, and policies that we can work with. Instead, we'll have basically a blanket if you're authorized, if you're not authorized, way of doing it. So you'll see what I mean. It's kind of binary. So you're either authorized or you're not. So we want to go to the Nav menu. Right here. So in this Nav menu, I'm just going to add one more page. And we're going to need to add this page also, this component here as well. But once we're done with here, so I'm just going to call it standard user. You call it auth user or whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to call it a standard user. And this one, you'll only have access to it if you're authorized. So how do I make sure that this only gets seen by authorized user, only gives access to it? Well, you need to put a component here called the authorize route view. The authorize view component. And then within this component, you're going to add something called authorize. Now there are three of these there are three components that can be used inside the authorized view, and that is authorized, not authorized. If I look for authorized, is authorized, not authorized, and authorizing. Essentially, well, not authorized, you understand what it means. There's no real point for me doing it here. Like, I could put not authorized just for the sake of, for the sake of knowledge. We'll put it up here. Make sure that whatever you want to authorize is within here. And now I'm just going to add not authorized and have those initial three up here. So now we have not authorized right there. Oh, the nav is breaking. Okay, so the nav has to be outside. All right, so make sure that you don't break components along the way like I just tried. So put your nav menu outside of it all, and then put your authorized view within that, and then you can put all the tabs in there. So you have your not authorized, we're going to have the home, the counter, and the fetch data in our not authorized tab, and then the only thing in our authorized is going to be the one called standard user. So now what I expect to see when I run this is that we can see the 3 tabs regardless whether or not we're authorized. Oh no, what's gonna happen is that we're gonna see what I screwed up, but I'm not gonna stop. So what we have here are we're not authorized right now. As you can see, we're not logged in, but we can see these things. But once we log in, I believe what's gonna happen is we're gonna lose access to those 3 and just have access to the standard user page. Not my intent, but I think it gets the message across. I could be wrong. Let's see what happens. Yep, I was right. So yeah, because I'm authorized now, I lose access to the non-authorized pieces. So, funny. Oh yeah, that's right. We didn't create the components, so we get the default thing. But that's okay. If I wanted to see all 3 of them at all times, then all I would have to do is remove the non-authorized pieces. And then I could see it regardless whether I'm authorized. Run that. Break something. Oh yeah, I guess this is how they want you to do it. I'll keep that there. You put these outside of the authorized view. So if you want to authorize something, put it within the authorized view component. If you don't care about whether or not your authorization matters, put it outside the authorized view component. And then there is one more value in here that I'm going to show you called authorizing. So what this does is that when it's in the middle of authorizing you, basically if you're doing an asynchronous call, you have a message specific for that moment. So because this is Blazor server, you're not going to do an asynchronous call while you're doing this, I believe. That's how the authentication, at least this kind of authentication works. You're not going to need that. Oh, yeah. So in this case, we're going to be accessing those 3 tabs at all times. I'll log out real quick. So now I have these 3 tabs that I can access. And if I try to log in again, I'll have access to all the tabs now. Again, there's no page here, but that's fine. I didn't really add the page here, but if you want, I could just add it. But yeah, let's just, for completionist sakes, let's just add our Blazor component. Add up here. I believe this is what we called it. So I'm authorized right now. I could see it. Not authorized, I can't see it. So that is the gist of the authorization. There's not much more to it than that. Unfortunately, I don't like it. It's very good if you just want to get started and you need authorization for, a project or something. It's very bad for actual productive stuff unless you're creating something extremely simple. So what I mean is that because you can't really use policies with this, at least not in this video. When I find out how to use policies, I'll tell you how to do it in Blazor. But normally how you would do it is you will need to read off the claims and read off the policy or whatever it is that you're doing, and then that will tell you. I think the proper way of doing the kind of authentication authorization for something in production is to use claims and have those claims tell you, what it is that your user is bound to. In fact, there's even a claims table that was created just for this. So you can read off the claims. It's just that it takes a little bit more work. So in this example, that is not, simple, but this does get you off the ground when you want to do authorization and authentication. You do need you need to activate it as an individual account. You will need to add a database here and then do some minor changes to the account in order to make it work. And if you want to change what your user can see depending on their authorization status, you have components that will do that for you. But if whatever you're trying to test for authorization has to be within an authorized view. But when it comes to roles and the policies and claims, I would like to save that for a different video because I want to go more in depth with that, because that is the way that you're also going to be using WebAssembly projects mostly, because they have to use that. For Blazor server, everything's basically easy peasy off the bat for you. So this is the simplest tutorial you can have. I just went out of my way to show you basically everything that this particular method provides for you. And then in the next couple of videos, I'll go into more in depth how to make more robust authentication and authorization pieces. I just want to keep it super simple and not get into too much of the nitty gritty just yet. So that is why I made sure that, I kept it this way. And that's basically it. Actually, that is not it, because I forgot to teach you how to actually protect the pages from unauthorized access. So let's say if I don't have this authorized attribute written like this, add attribute bracket or authorize, then anyone can have access to the page I'm trying to keep you from. So in this case, standard user was only meant for authorized users. If I didn't have this, and I ran this, and I try to get into this page, I might not be able to see it from the nav menu, but I will still have access to it if I try to go through it to the URL. All I gotta do to reach it is this, and then write the name standard user. As you can see, this access the component. In order for me to protect unauthorized access, we add the authorized attribute here, and then if I try to do that again as an individual who's not logged in or who's not authorized, I get this instead, not authorized. So I just I saw that I missed that in this, and I didn't want you to miss it either. So that's basically all you gotta do. If you log in and then you try to find it, you'll be able to work with it just fine. It's only if you're not authorized and it is a protected page like that, then you have this problem, which is what you want. You want to protect your pages, right? And that's it. I'm gonna go back to my outro. See you guys later. Like and subscribe. Sorry that I didn't go into the claims, the policies and stuff. I think that's really important to do, but I also think that it isn't what the video claims to be, which is simple. So I'll get into that. Don't worry. A couple videos from now, we'll get into different ways of how to authenticate Blazor apps, including Blazor WebAssembly apps. So don't worry. I'll see you. Peace out. Like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Peace.